Good morning. Thank you for joining our 8th webinar in the VTC series. I'd like to welcome Tom Needham to do today's webinar. Tom is our head of IT disposal within the academia group, and Tom is going to be going through a presentation today all around outsourcing, warehousing and logistics, and accepting deliveries really, and dispatching orders for home workers. We're in a time where we're finding lots of universities, colleges, schools, businesses using this service, and we thought it was a fantastic opportunity to talk to you about it. So Tom, thank you very much for joining. I will pass the baton over to yourself.
Thank you. Morning all. So yeah, I just thought, jump ahead. In these times, we've had a lot of feedback from customers, or challenging with businesses closed, organisations closed, equipment, and having to look at getting things out to home workers and some of the sort of challenges that they've sort of faced. So we really want to cover off some of that today and look at some options that may be of interest or may be able to support you through these times to have some sort of goods in or logistics operation to sort of support. So a quick introduction from me. So I've been with academia 12 years, seen quite a few changes during that period of time. I now look after our IT disposal services sort of across the group, and I'll touch on maybe where the synergies are with what we're going to talk today on that side of it. I'm actually based at one of the companies within the academia group, which is a business called Charterhouse-Muller. We are based in Reading, and we have recently acquired a 15,000 square foot facility, and we've looked at how we can sort of utilise that during these times to sort of assist some of academia's customer base, whether it be storing, whether it be some configuration services and some bits that I'll touch on as we go through the slides on this presentation. So what have we kind of heard during this period? So we've had obviously massive changes with the way that the whole kind of world is working in many ways. What we've started to see is with many of the manufacturers' operations overseas and then being hit sort of first by the COVID-19 outbreak, we've now started to see some of those devices that were maybe ordered 2-3 months ago now actually starting to be delivered from overseas into the UK. But some of the challenges there is now lots of the UK sites are closed to sort of accept those. So where do they sit? What can we do to sort of support that? Are the resellers potentially that you're ordering the goods from, are they able to hold them? Or are some people under pressure from the manufacturers to have them sort of take delivery of them? And then clearly there's very limited staff on site. So even if there's potential for items to be delivered, it's who can sort of accept those, who can do any sort of work to those devices that might be done for them to be used on an onward basis. There's been obviously high demand to get devices out to sort of home workers or home learners, but actually many customers are sort of facing challenges in doing that. And because most people are now sort of working from home and there's no one on site to sort of provide that. So they're the kind of 3 areas that we've seen a lot of, or had some interesting conversations with customers at the minute, and really looking at, well, is there any way that can help us with this? And yeah, we're quite fortunate in having an operation with sort of warehousing and engineering staff that we've been able to look and see, well, how can we help some of our customers in these areas? And what we've also seen is a lot of devices that could be used for sort of home working and learning, still locked up effectively within organisations. So whether it's laptop trolleys in library areas or learning areas, whether it's the the sort of buffer stock that organisations have in their own sort of departments. Now with buildings sort of being closed, how can they release some of those devices and get them out to either students or to staff for sort of home working? So again, we've had to look at that and some questions on what can we do to help sort of get those out to those individuals that may benefit from them. So we came up with a solution. So as I said, we now have a 15,000 square foot warehouse, which in normal times is our IT disposal facility. So by its very nature, it's a secure warehouse facility, which again has lots of equipment going in and out on a sort of daily basis. Within that facility, we have IT engineers that effectively provide a configuration service, or whether that's looking at repairing devices that come in as part of the IT disposal service we provide. We're able to use those guys to provide a range of configuration services that customers and clients may need once devices ship in. And then again, because of that logistics facility, we're able to offer a sort of collection and return service as well from home workers, which we can sort of touch on as we go through. So I guess the first area, and probably what starts most conversations is as I touched on earlier, how can we help by accepting deliveries, particularly bulk deliveries. So a lot of academia's customers would be in the sort of further and higher education markets. They may have placed orders for, we're not talking sort of ones or twos. This may be sort of pallets of goods that actually now can't be accepted by many institutions because their goods in is effectively closed. So what do we do? So we say, using our warehouse facility, we can accept goods on behalf of universities, colleges, schools, businesses. We can store those for as long as required within that facility, and then as required, they can be dispatched. So, for example, we have some customers where they place their sort of bulk orders. They then want us to dispatch those out to individual home workers. As part of that process, we're capturing the serial number, MAC address information, create an asset register, host an online portal where you can actually keep live visibility of stock that's available to you. And then they are calling that off and requesting that we ship those to individual home users that can then utilize those devices and kind of carry on work as normal. So that's kind of one, and probably the most simple sort of area and support that we're offering to customers at the minute. We also then appreciate that not even with the advances of things like for Apple users, Jamf and the sort of device enrollment program, having that out of the box experience, the need for configuration services is probably not what it once was. Again, the same from a sort of Windows perspective with autopilot and such things. But often there still is a need for some work to be done to a device at the basic level. It may be applying asset tagged information, updating it into an asset register. In other areas, it may be deploying software to it, and even the initial sort of startup. If you are using products like the Apple DEP and autopilot, if it just needs someone to sort of sanity check that initial build has been built, we're able to offer that before then sort of dispatching it to it. So it allows organizations, as I say, to be able to bring the equipment in, and we can do any of the configuration work that's then be required for it, and then dispatching it out onto that sort of home worker or home user. And again, it just allows them to carry on as normal. We're finding most organisations don't have the IT staff now on site to be able to do this, and then obviously not going to send pallets of laptops to IT workers working remotely to perform this service. So we're able to sort of look at offering this on their behalf. So some examples of that could be, say, basic things like asset tagging information and capturing sort of MAC address information, so details can be uploaded onto the network. and in other areas, say it could be software builds, even bundling accessories. So if you've looking to then put an additional power supply with it, say some software, anything that may well go on, and we can put all that into a single sort of bundle and sort of dispatch that out to home workers. And yeah, as I touched on there, so we then have the sort of onward logistics capabilities. So we're talking about storing equipment, we're talking about being able to provide any sort of configuration work that may be required. But then we're also saying when through utilising either our own logistics capabilities, so as a business with an IT disposal facility, we also have a fleet of vehicles to provide that service, or we, for home workers, or if it's around the country, we kind of utilise the courier network to provide that service. But whether it's dispatching pallets of goods, whether it's dispatching individual laptops, or whether it's dispatching bundles to sort of home workers, we're able to take all of those kind of challenges that you've not necessarily had to deal with before or even considered before, and bring you a sort of single point or a single organisation that can provide those services to address potentially some of the headaches that organisations are feeling in this current time. And important to note, all of those deliveries are contactless in terms of with kind of infection control and trying to social distance with that side of it. So we implement, if it's couriers that we're utilising, they will deliver that to the door, and obviously wait for the person to accept that delivery from a distance. Again, if it's our own vehicles that are doing the deliveries, then we implement a range of measures, from sanitising the vehicle, the packages, and everything in between. So everything we do sort of is geared up to ensure that everyone is safe as part of those logistics operations. And then one kind of final area, which is sort of being thought about a little bit more now, for probably the future, is we're then able to offer a sort of collect and return service. So some organisations may just be sending out devices for sort of loan period for staff members to have them up and running. It may be you have leavers or people sort of changing roles. And again, getting those devices back at the minute when they're out in the field is actually quite a challenge. It's not, having customers approach and say, well, we don't have the ability to sort of bring those back to us, or we're trying to get them back from various places, and we don't have a sort of single point to have those brought back to. We're able to offer, again, through a third-party services or our own, the ability to have those collected from home users, brought back to a single location, and then again work with organisations to understand what they'd like us to do with those devices. So it may be we just capture the information about it, perform a sort of basic audit on the device to confirm it's kind of working. Others may want us to provide data wiping services on that, so that it's ensure there's no customer or corporate data left on the devices. And others again have asked us to say, actually, we don't have much any use for this device now. Can you sort of remarket that for us, and we can provide then a revenue back to the organisation for those devices if they're sort of no longer required. And again, some have just made that sort of short-term investment to get through this period. That service allows them to kind of recoup some of that cost that has been offset for providing that service. So it's really a sort of kind of a number of different options that we're able to offer through having a sort of warehouse, a production line, and engineers, and their own logistics fleet. So again, one of the other bits that we touched on earlier was looking at how organisations may have devices locked up in laptop trolleys. They may be in stock in a sort of goods in area. Through this sort of collect and return service, we've had a couple of organisations where we've had authorisation to go onto site, collect some of those devices, bring those back to our facility, and again then dispatch those out to sort of home workers or home learners. So again, it just makes use of some of those devices that are sort of tied up within organisations at the minute where they haven't been able to sort of utilise those. So again, obviously looking at putting risk assessments in place there to ensure that we can get onto site and collect those. But again, just through having some of those relationships, it's enabled some organisations to benefit from us then dispatching those out on their behalf, or putting, again, particular software builds on for particular users in advance of that. So I've sort of spoken a lot there. I've kind of gone through some of the sort of key areas and the challenges that we've seen from organisations. I can sort of open it up to sort of any questions that there may be around some of those. I appreciate there's quite a lot of different areas there that we've sort of spoken about. Some of the bits that I want to sort of put over is that it's really quite a flexible, almost a menu of options that we can offer. So we don't have just a set. We can only work this way for you. So if there's any questions specifically related to anything that I've sort of spoken about here, then by all means, fire away.
Tom, thank you for that. While we check the chat's sort of feature to see if we've got any questions coming through. Just one from myself. Obviously, Charterhouse Muller has gone through lots of changes, and you've seen lots of developments recently. You mentioned earlier about your Mac 2. Do you want to talk a bit about that? And there might be a few customers online that might be interested in some of those products.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So on the first part of that question, so Charterhouse Muller, and again, you'll see in the presentation there, the sort of building. So our standalone IT disposal business, actually acquired by Academia 2.5 years ago now, but fundamentally working right across the board to provide an IT disposal service from desktops and tablets and laptops right through to the sort of data center, and the core there being around sort of IT disposal, data sanitization, and generally then promoting sort of reuse over recycling. So we see that as a much greener solution for sort of redundant IT. What we then can do, as I said there, is look to remarket that equipment, and one of the channels that we do that for the very best equipment that we sort of refurbish is an e-commerce site, mac2.co.uk. As it suggests, it's focused around the Apple environment, but there we sell a range of used and refurbished equipment from iPads through to MacBooks, iMacs, and it's particularly on the iPad side been very popular during these times. Where you don't necessarily need the latest and greatest, but want to keep in contact with loved ones, friends, family, and being able to sort of acquire a 2 or 3 year old iPad at half the price of buying a brand new one, it has been very popular. So we have seen quite a spike in demand and interest there. So if anyone is looking for that, then mac2.co.uk is your place to go.
That's great, and I know we've seen, as you mentioned there, lots of business recently, which is fantastic. And yeah, do follow the social channels as well. Facebook and all the products are listed on there as well. I don't think there's any questions from the audience, which is fine. Thank you very much for your time, Tom. If anyone wants to contact Tom directly, there's Tom's contact details, and you can do so after the webinar. Just a quick one with regards to the virtual tech conference Academia is running. Please do check out our website, academia.co.uk/VTC. There's 17 webinars that we have been running in the last 3 weeks. Please do pop on there. All the recordings are on there, as well as the schedule for the next couple of weeks. We've got one this afternoon, which is all around accessing your Apple estate remotely, and we go into detail on a couple of products there, No Machine and Zero Tier, and that one will kick off at 3 p.m. So please do check out the website, academia.co.uk/VTC, and register for our webinars. I'll just put the thank you video on, and we'll be here if anyone wants to fire a few questions over, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys.